Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the workshop. It is fantastic to have you here. Today's episode is sponsored by NordVPN, and you can get started with a 2-year plan for 68% off at nordvpn.com/forge, and you'll get an extra month for free using code FORGE at checkout. Let's jump in. We've got a bit of an issue, folks. Matt over here, he was running the Chambersberg. He turned it off, and the ram didn't come down. See under there? That's a ram that should be on the bottom die. The ram will not go down. It is stuck up there. Come have a look at this. Right on the tip of this oil gun, there's a big score line, a big scratch. That means that the most likely culprit of this is the key that holds the die in place slipped out, then the ram went up, and now the key is jammed against the inside of the cylinder.
It's really good for the hammer.
Really not good for the hammer. So if I turn on the power hammer, it's doing this, moving ever so slightly.
See it right there? The key is sticking out.
Setting the machine in clamp mode, but it still does not push the ram down. I've tried using the treadle to forge. Nothing happened. If the amount of force that the air is able to put into it to lift it up and down isn't enough to push it down, that thing is well and truly, very badly stuck. I think we need to lift it out of the top. And lifting it out of the top is now a big operation because we've got to get the forklift in here, we've got to get rid of the gantry, and then get the forklift over top of it. Oh my goodness. This has now become a project. We found the problem. Thank you, Will, for spotting that. One of the bolts that holds the guides in place has come out and it's completely trapped the ram. So as you saw, the problem isn't that the key is wedged against it. The problem is there is a bolt sticking out. That bolt holds the guides that help all of this run true. And the only way we're gonna be able to fix this is by removing the gantry, removing our cylinder cover, and lifting the ram almost entirely out. Let's go get the forklift. Oh, you see that? Yeah, we got a storage container. Let's roll the clip. Woohoo! More space! All right, we've got the head off, which means that now you're looking at the ram, but of course, you folks are subscribed. So you know that's the ram, because you've seen our Fixing the Chambersberg Powerhammer series, and if you haven't, you should check it out, because that'll help you learn a little bit more about how these things work. Well, anyway, we've got 2 bolts in the ram. What we're gonna do is get a piece of steel strapping. We'll then get a sling, a round sling in the strapping, lift it up with the forks again. Oh, there we go. That is the problem bolt. No, the bolt has sheared, and that's how it came out. That means that we've got to use a screw extractor inside of the bore of this cylinder. Goodness gracious, that's not good. We are gonna have a problem. That is the ceiling. We've got to change something up, because this is not gonna get up. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some blocking under this. We're gonna pull down the sling, shorten it up, and then we'll lift it. All right, we got the ram pulled. That is 300 pounds of heavy forging goodness. Check this out though, have a look. This is where they did a Dutchman repair. There was a flaw in this from manufacturing, from Chambersberg. This was a war era hammer. And you can imagine how it was in the Second World War. These factories had to produce so much more volume than they were used to producing. The stuff probably slipped through the cracks a little bit. And this is one of them. This ram had a flaw in it from the factory. And so a repair was done to it, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. And there was a Dutchman put in. That means they cut out the crack area. Then they put something in and welded all around it with a spec pre and post heat. So they did a spec preheat, spec post heat on the weld. It was all done up to the specifications set out by Chambersberg. But that's pretty cool. I mean, it's a huge repair. Like, that's a massive repair. And yeah, I mean, it's held up fine over the last 6 years since that repair was done. So that's not the issue. We're going to wrap this in cellophane, put it on a pallet out there, and then have a look at the snapped bolt and see how we can get that out.
Well, this is a ramless power hammer.
This right here is what that screw is meant to look like. And up here, you will see that screw is no longer there, but you knew that because I've already shown you that screw snapped off. So somehow, we need to remove the remaining stud from that hole. It honestly feels like a practical joke because that screw is about this far up the cylinder. We're gonna be getting dirty. This again, for reference, is what fell out and jammed up our power hammer. Who knows how much of this is still in there. Those screws are from this assembly right here. This can lower down and it can come out. I don't know if I want to do that though. You can see where that stuffing box fits into everything. If we take it out, we're gonna have a lot easier access, that is for sure. See if I can stick my finger in it. Oh, it's stuck. It's not. It's a good one.
If I put a pick in there, maybe I can feel what's happening. Like a dentist. Oh, that's weird. On the other side, there's a hex bolt. And then on this side, that's very strange. Oh, I don't want to do that, but we got to do it. We're gonna pull this mystery contraption off, stuffing box, whatever it is. It's got bolts the whole way around the underside. When we loosen those, it's gonna want to drop off, I think. Hopefully it doesn't fall and break a foot. On the bright side, we get to use the forklift again. You know, every day, I go home and I make sure to show Mrs. Steele my forklift certification card. Because frankly, it's the thing I'm most proud of. Every certified forklift driver knows. It's a big deal. Am I right, Isaiah? You're forklift certified. Big deal, right?
Yeah, it's a huge deal.
Huge deal.
Big flex.
Big flex.
Big flex.
Are you forklift certified? That is our problem. That is one sheared bolt. And I think I know the problem. It's my most hated thing in the entire world. Spring washers. Okay, I do know the spring washer has nothing to do with this, but anyway, this is the snapped bolt, or the rest of it. So this beast of an assembly, as you saw, it sits up here, and it houses the ram guides. Come over. This here is a removable piece of material that can be refaced when things get worn, and it can be adjusted to provide just exactly what you're after, and that's the ram guide. There is a slippery material right here. It feels like a graphite embedded wear pad or something. So this is quite slippery. It also gives you some sealing as it conforms to the ram. There is also this very chunky rubber seal that is working kind of probably similar to how an O-ring works, but it's just a loop of orange rubbery sealing material. These guides need to be held on, and you can see the damage that's been caused. This bolt holds that guide in place. It slipped out, it jammed up the ram, and then was stuck like this. So we had to pull that ram out. And so it's a beautiful old flathead screw, probably made when the machine was made. That screw then comes into this nut, and interestingly, they've tried to lock it so it would never back out by using 2 center punch marks. So once they tighten this, they put these center punch marks in that swells out the material from the bolt into the nut, locking it in place, which is all fine and dandy, but this eventually broke. I don't exactly know why it would have broken. A locked-in place over here, it really doesn't make sense as to how that broke, but just the vibrations over, 70 plus years, almost 80 years of use, means that it did break. What's interesting is it looks like on this side, similar thing has happened. Either a bolt broke, or they lost it, and there's a hex head bolt in there, which could be a problem, because as you see, our original screw has this tapered head to fit inside the countersunk holes that are in there. So we might not only need to make this one screw,
but need to make a second one to replace that repair and replacement. Okay, this is actually really cool. Whoever did that replacement, they put the correct countersink taper on the bottom of the bolt. So this bolt is completely fine. So I can put this back in, no problem, we'll tighten it up. That doesn't need any adjustments. It has an added benefit of teaching us a potential way that we can make this part way easier. If I find the right size of nut and bolt, it's as easy as throwing that bolt in the lathe and then simply putting a little taper on the underside of the head. And then it's gonna fit in there. We don't need to make a brand new screw from scratch. Slight problem. Our half-inch bolt doesn't fit in here and gets stuck. 486 thousandths, 486 thousandths. Should be the same and it should fit. Maybe there's a little burr in there we can get. It didn't work at all. Let's try this. Oh, there we go! Didn't take much. There's just a few burrs in there. That's an undersized drill and the bolt fits the whole way in. So that's incredible. Have a look at this side. The bolt head also doesn't stick out past the guide. And that is exactly what we want. With that bolt fitting, next thing is we're gonna take the guide plate fully out so that we can fix this little burr that was formed when the snapped bolt got jammed. Okay, the guide is loose. Check that out. There's some cool sealing material to pull out. Oh, it fell. Goodness, this is so cool. That's the guide. Oh, look at that! And it has a shim in it. A 12 thousandths of an inch shim. And it has a copper shim. That is our guide. Here's something super cool. Look at these holes in the casting. Well, these holes go all the way down into this groove. That groove runs the whole way around the inside of this casting behind that little sealing fabric, that gasket material that the ram slides upon, clearly helping lubricate the backside of it. Honestly, this feels like leather. Feels like leather, but that oil comes around and helps keep this soaked in oil so that it slips really well, but also presumably so that it helps seal really well by having all that oil in there. But it's amazing. All these old machines, they really had to plan very carefully how they were gonna flow oil to all of the critical parts. And so there's holes the whole way around, a little oil groove in there. It's amazing. I love this stuff. Take a pause on serious work for some fun work. Without anything in here, I think it would be really interesting to just get a feel for how much airflow there is when it's working. So, we're gonna turn the machine on without the ram in place. So cool to see. That is so loud. Oh, it's so loud. Okay, so for putting this back together, we have a little bit of a conundrum, which is this. When we pulled it out of the machine, there was no gasket. A gasket is used to take up all the inconsistencies in the machined surface and form a seal. And so your gasket is a slightly soft material like this that will do that. Well, there was no gasket. We're gonna make a gasket real fast. Okay, that's in place. Next up, we've got to get the ram back in the Powerhammer. Now, I've had a whole weekend to forget how difficult this is likely to be. So, frankly, I think it's going to be a doddle. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
at the orientation of the bottom die in comparison to where the top die is. Yeah, baby! Yes! That's good! And look at that! We started off 2 days ago with a perfectly functioning power hammer, and here we are with a perfectly functioning, well, we should try it out first, see if it is functioning. There we go! It runs perfectly! So much so that when we turn it off, the RAM actually falls to the bottom, so it's no longer jammed. What an adventure that was, you know? Despite the fact that that was a 2-day interruption, I've just had a smile on my face the whole time. You know, does it get better? You get to play with all of these 14,000 pounds of cast iron, you get to get oily, greasy, you get to have a whole lot of fun. Fixing machines is awesome. Will, we've really got to do some more machine fixing.
I just wish we had something that we could work on that would be both machine restoration and power hammer related.
Well, you know, I think we're probably going to find a solution for it, so make sure that you subscribe if you haven't, so that you can see what we end up finding to restore and fix. Because maybe it's something a little closer to home. Maybe there's something in here that we can restore and fix anyway. Before we finish this video though, we should have a little final thank of today's sponsor. Today's episode has been sponsored by NordVPN. They're a virtual private network. What that means is they act as an intermediary between you and the websites you browse to encrypt the data that goes back and forth between you. In an age of more and more identity theft, when you have more and more sensitive information out there online, it's very important to have that extra level of security. It also gives you some anonymity, because that encryption means that your internet service provider can't spy on you and see the things that you're browsing. It also gives you some flexibility, because with a VPN, you get to make the websites you browse think you're browsing from whichever country you want in 60+ countries. The handy dandy app for iOS, Mac, Android, and PC allows you to easily switch countries, and this means that you can access a whole host of content you wouldn't be able to get otherwise, such as different shows on your favorite streaming platforms. You'll have up to 6 simultaneous connections at once, so one Nord account is good for you and the whole family, and frankly, you get to experience a whole brand new internet, which is very cool. It's risk-free. NordVPN has a 30-day money-back guarantee, so get started. Get 68% off a 2-year plan at nordvpn.com/forge and get an extra month for free using code FORGE at checkout. Thank you, Nord, for sponsoring this. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe, like it, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.